Do y'all remember cruising? If you're old enough, you remember. I think I've done a video on this before, but I can't remember if I did it on TikTok or here on YouTube. So I'm going to talk about it again, just because some of the best times of my life were spent cruising. Tack för sist, välkommen tillbaka. Thank you for being here. Thanks for watching, subscribing, just, all the comments. So far, I'm pretty sure I'm keeping up on all the comments. I try to reply to everybody. The only ones I don't reply to are like snarky or mean or negative. And you're more than welcome to leave that. I don't feel any need to respond. If I watch YouTube a lot too. I go on YouTube, I do TikTok, and I scroll through stuff myself all the time. In fact, I've gone down rabbit holes laying in bed on the road like this. Sometimes I'll just start scrolling and I'll just go down rabbit holes. But if there's something I don't like, I don't stop and watch it and then leave a comment about how crappy it was or how stupid it was. But to each his own. If you feel the need to do that, that's cool. So, I mentioned in past videos that cars were a huge, huge deal when I was in high school. So I graduated high school in 1981. I was 17 when I graduated. And I had a car right from the get-go. I mean, I had a car when I was 14. As soon as I turned 16, I insured it. And it was a 63 Plymouth Belvedere, which would have been really cool if it was two-door. It was a four-door, so we didn't think it was real cool. But still, it was a cool old car. And then I had a Mustang. But I never got the really souped up cool cars like some of my buddies had. I had a friend that had a 69 Camaro SS. I had a friend that had a 70 Malibu, Chevelle, 73 Nova, 77 El Camino, I think, which is starting to get towards the end of the cool El Caminos, in my opinion. Like the late 60s were the super cool El Caminos. Have you ever seen the movie The Mexican with Brad Pitt and Julia Roberts? And El Camino. It's such a cool car. But, I've talked about in the past how we first started cruising my little town. When we were, even before we had our licenses, the farm boys all drove when they were 12, 13, 14. And for the most part, the cops left you alone as long as you weren't doing anything stupid. So, we mostly drove out in the country, which was not very far away in this little tiny town. So we'd go on the dirt roads, and you'd have the big parties out in the in the fields there, out in the prairie. In fact, that reminds me of kind of a crazy story I'll throw in here, and then I'll get back to the cruising. This just popped in my head because we were cruising the back roads. I don't remember how old I was. I want to say I was probably 18, because one of my friends I know was 16 and one was 17, and there were a couple of us that were 18. And so you got a picture. I'm sorry, I'm just going to grab my water real quick here. I'm not going anywhere. Sorry, I usually have this with me. We were out in the back country because we were drinking beers. And by the way, you could drink at 18 there. Of course, most kids were drinking before that. We did a lot of stuff we probably shouldn't have done before we should have. But we were out. It was night. I think there were 4 of us. And I think we were in a pickup truck. One of my farm friends' pickup truck. And we're just cruising around on the... So up where we grew up, it was all flat, just prairie. But there was a river, the Old Man River, that ran down in this valley. And these little gullies that go between these valleys, in Canada you call them coulees. And so we would cruise up and down the coulees, and sometimes we'd spotlight rabbits or whatever. But this night we were just out hanging out, having some drinks and just chilling. And we saw like a light. Not like electric light, like firelight. You could just kind of see it off in the distance. And it was pretty dark that night. And it's kind of a crazy story because we never figured out what was going on this night. So we kind of we turned off the headlights and we drove towards where this light was coming out. So it was down in this little gully, and we came up to the peak of the hill, and we could see the fire down here. Now, if any of my friends watch this, video that were with me, they might recollect the story differently. I don't know, but this is my recollection of it. Have you ever seen the movie Eyes Wide Shut with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman? So, you know how they all wear masks and capes and stuff like that. So we come up to the edge of this coulee, and you could see a big bonfire down at the bottom. And this is a little fuzzy. This is, 45 years ago. But there were a whole bunch of people around the fire, like dancing, and they had like cloaks on, and I think some of them had masks on, but it's so long ago I don't remember the details, but it was weird, and it gave us the creeps. We kind of stood there watching, but it had a really cult feel to it. And so I don't know how long we sat there and watched. You know, we were drinking beers, and maybe we watched it like it was a movie for a while, but eventually it's like, if these people see us up here, this is obviously something that they're trying to kind of hide. And we ended up backing away. I don't even know if we ever talked about it after that, because it creeped us out. It had a very kind of dark feel about it. The reason I even thought about that is because we used to have big bonfires out in the prairie, and you know, you'd have big parties, people would bring kegs, all the cool cars would get there, and the pickups, and it was just so much fun. But cruising, our town was very small, and the main street was like 3 blocks long and a block this way, maybe 4 blocks long by a block. So you just cruise around these 4 blocks over and over and over, and of course some people were going opposite directions. So you'd stop, and there were all these 4-way stops. We didn't have any stoplights in that town at that time. And we would just, you know, talk and BS and meet people. And eventually we kind of graduated to go into the big city of Lethbridge. And there cruising was a lot longer, because if you're from that area, you'll know Mayor McGrath and 3rd Avenue. You'd cruise north and south on Mayor McGrath, and then you'd go east and west on 3rd Avenue. And you just do this giant loop. It was, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 miles. And we would do that almost every Friday and Saturday. Sometimes we'd go to a dance or go out to eat, but we always cruised for a bit. And I actually met a couple of girlfriends just cruising. We just had so much fun doing it. And I really feel bad that, from what I can tell anyway, that doesn't happen anymore. You know, when my kids were younger and some of their friends would be over, we'd talk about this kind of stuff, and they'd say, yeah, once in a while somebody tries cruising, but the cops tell us we're not allowed to do it, and, you know, bull crap like that. And for the most part, it was harmless. You know, we got in some fights, we met some girls, we met some friends. It was just such a simple time. No cell phones, no social media. Just, you know, if you wanted to talk to somebody, you called them, or you met them in person. You know, I was talking the other day about what was it called, friction maxing, which there's got to be a term for everything these days. But yeah, it was a fantastic time to grow up, and I feel actually really blessed to grow up in the time I did. I don't, you know, I wish I could go back. I wish I could be 30 years old, 25 years old, 18 years old again. But I don't have any wish to be, you know, 22 years old now. I'm glad the time I grew up in, and maybe that's how everybody is. Maybe it's that you love the time you grew up in. I hope it's that way for young people now. You know, my kids are not really kids anymore. They range from 25 to 35 years old. And they had very different upbringings, lives than I did, just because of the time. We really tried hard to give our kids some freedom. You know, when I was 8, 9, 10 years old, we would walk to the river by ourselves. We would go camping by ourselves. And you know, nowadays there are places, like I'm in California right now. There are parts of California, if some 7-year-old and his little sister, say an 8-year-old boy and his 6-year-old sister, are walking to the grocery store or the convenience store to get some candy, there are people that will call the cops, which it just makes me sad. So we really tried to, you know, when our kids were not super young, but youngish, give them a couple of bucks and say you can go with your buddy down to the convenience store, which was just a couple blocks away. And to me, it's very important that kids have some freedom and be able to do things that aren't structured. Everything's so structured. Now, I know I'm rambling a bit off of the cruising now, but that part drives me crazy. Excuse me. There are so many, I don't want to criticize anybody's parenting, but I'm not a fan of the, you know, in the summer, you're doing this at 10 a.m., then you got camp at 12, and then at 4 you're going to T-ball, and then at 6 you're doing this. And the kids never have any time to just like go ride their bikes, go hang out with their friends, go invent a game, go throw the football, go play 500 in the field. You know, what was that game we played? Boston Bulldog. I don't know, maybe a Canadian game, but tag, kick the can, hiding, and, you know, going out even in town at night and just hiding and trying to find each other. And yeah, I think that kind of stuff is really important. And I think it creates tougher people as well. You know, I say it all the time on here. You can leave me a negative comment. It's not going to bother me. And I think a part of that is my upbringing. I just, you know, somebody I don't know insults me, the hell do I care? If somebody close to me insults me in a really personal way, that would hurt. But I can deal with it. I can move on. And I know there are so many people now that just seem to be offended by everything all the time. There might be somebody watching what I'm saying right now getting offended. I'm probably not the guy to watch. If this kind of stuff offends you, I'm probably not your cup of tea. And that's okay. Everybody likes what they like. And so anyway, I know I rambled a bit, and I'm going to do that. I just, you know, I like talking. I like telling stories. And, you know, I really get a kick out of, you know, like today I had a comment, and it's from the couple that I know watches most of my videos, and I really appreciate it. They're like, coffee in the morning and watch your video. I'm like, that's freaking so cool. Because one of my favorite things to do when I'm home is my wife and I go sit on the patio and watch the birds and drink our coffee. So, yeah, I'm ready to be home already. It's been 10, 11 days now on the road, and it's just, I'm ready to be done with this. We're getting more and more work in Utah, so hopefully this is coming to an end. So I'll quit rambling now. I got so much to say. I actually want to put out some of my, what's the word? Values, experiences, advice. There's a guy I watch on YouTube. He's a cool old guy. When I say old guy, he's actually several years younger than me. Dry Creek Wrangler School. Dry Creek Wrangler School. I think that's what it's called. I think he's got a couple million followers, but he just sits there with his cigar and gives advice, and, you know, and he's no apologies. He just says the way he feels. And that's how I am. And I don't mean to offend anybody. I really don't. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but this is my channel, and I'm going to put out there the things I want to talk about. And that's going to eventually include things that I believe in. I won't get political, but I will talk about my values. You know, like I really think it's important. I've got a couple of friends that I don't want to get off on it now because I'll just ramble another 4 or 5 minutes. So we'll end it here for now. Tack för denna gång. Men snackas igen snart. Thank you so much, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the videos. And if you are, share it. Let other people know. Maybe we can build this community. By the way, I am actually working with ChatGPT, putting a bunch of my stories together. And I'm going to do a little digital book thing. And just about small town experiences, growing up in a small town, coming from Norway, and put a bunch of them together, maybe 15 or 20 of these little short stories together in a digital book that hopefully I'll have done in a few weeks. And when I do, I'll put a link for it if anybody's interested. And by the way, if you have something you want me to talk about, I mean, if you've watched a bunch of my videos, you probably have a feel for what I am, who I am. I'm a straightforward dude. I'm going to tell you what I think. I don't pull punches, but I don't, like I said, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or offend anybody. So if there's something you're like, this is the right guy to talk about, blah, 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 throw it out there. I will do my best to take some of that and run with it. So take care, everybody. I hope you have a beautiful night. And I'll probably do a video tomorrow night. It's Friday night. I usually cut loose on Friday and Saturday when I'm on the road and have a few beers. And it's kind of fun doing some videos when I'm just kind of cutting loose a little bit. So we'll see what comes to mind tomorrow. Anyway, have a great night. Peace. Love.